Hello guys, welcome to Apex Racing Academy setup tutorial. This is the basic guide for the Formula Renault 2.0. This is a Q&A session. We're going to talk about tyre pressures today, how we can set them up, the tools, the basic tools we can use inside the iRacing garage to try and work out how to get the tyre pressure set correct for both qualifying and for the race. What we need to do if a particular corner needs a little bit of extra support, be it a slow speed corner or a high speed corner. So feel free to post any questions in the chat on the YouTube channel if you're watching it live. I know this is not advertised, so we don't expect there's going to be lots and lots of people on here, but feel free to do that. If you are a member of the Academy and just tuning into this, feel free to jump into the channel and ask me any questions as well. I won't be covering anything about Motec or anything like that, how to use that in this particular guide. That's the advanced one that I'm going to do. So for the Academy 2.0 members, come and grab me for that information for now, and once I get that video up there, then we can sit down and really go into that into a lot of detail. I'm on a single screen at the moment, which is a little different for me, just so I can do all of the streaming and everything else like that. I've just got an Oculus set up, so it's a bit of a unique experience going from 3 screens to an Oculus back to a single screen. So yeah, forgive the really dodgy driving, because I expect there will be some tonight. Right, we're at Phillip Island at the moment. It's a reasonable track to actually do this test out with tyres, because we've got a good combination. We've got some really slow corners, and we've also got some high speed corners as well, and it could be that the car needs support in different areas, so it could be a good track for me to sort of point out what I would do depending on where I'm struggling. Just for this test as well, I'm just going to start with using the medium downforce setup, so it gives you a bit of an idea of the setup that I'm using and the baseline. So it's just the standard iRacing medium downforce. We're not worried about lap times right now. We just want to basically talk about tyres and how to try and get them set up to be optimal, like I say, for QM race. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a couple of laps. If there's any questions, like I say, post them in there, and then I'll answer them when I'm back, or if anyone's in TeamSpeak in the channel. You won't be able to hear yourselves on the stream, but yeah, ask away, and I'll try and answer them after I've come out of the car. But yeah, right now I just need to set a couple of laps. Let's just look at Q pressures to start off with. So I just want a couple of laps just to get an idea of what the tyre pressures are doing over a run. So yeah, single screen, that is weird. If anyone was worried about the field of view, so this is what my field of view is like if I was on 3 screens. So just the middle, and of course then it's the outside screens take care of the rest. If you ever wonder why all the pros and things like that go, oh, get your field of view right when you're on a single screen, yeah, this is how wacky they want it to look. So we've qualified being 2 laps, and obviously we've got our out lap as well, so I'm going to do the 3 laps just to sort of see what the tyres are doing. And I dare say I've got tons of fuel in as well, so I'm going to have to take that out as well. But this will be a good enough test. Yeah, please don't judge me on the lines, because I can't see anything compared to what I'm used to. One thing I found with the baseline sets, actually, they do give pretty good starting pressures. not been ranging sort of too far up or down. It's fairly decent. Oh, typical, my wheel just cut off. That's my problems I've been having of late. If anyone's kept track on what's gone on with the World Championship, yeah, I just all of a sudden lose the ability to shift. Very frustrating. I'm looking for 8th gear there. No. Doesn't appear to be one. Like I say, we're not worried about lap time right now. Just what the pressures are going to do, and we need to sort of do a simulated 3-lap run or so just to get an idea. That was 1 lap or 2 laps, was it? Just 2 laps. Right. Try and, when you want to be testing pressures, try not to like lock up the tyres when you're braking as well, because that'll affect the hop pressures. Let's get back to live. So yeah, so if we jump to the garage, like I said, it's just a default set. It's got a lot of fuel in as well, so we really should take that out. We will do for the next run as well. It's gonna totally mess with the car a little bit with the settings, but we won't worry about it too much. Right, okay, so what we're looking at on the pressures then. Now, this won't be the same for everybody, but certainly the way I go about setting up the cars. And again, there's no right or wrong. You know, somebody goes, "Oh no, I disagree. I'll do it like this." Well, that's fine if that works for you. Then that's that's great. So many ways to set these cars up, and you've got to get it feeling right for you. Said that in one of my sort of like training videos. No matter what happens, no setup will ever beat your own when you've sort of personalised it to your own touch and feel. You know, you're always going to go quicker on that setup because it does exactly what you want it to do. But my personal opinion of the pressures is that you want to try and get the hop pressures even for when you want your fastest lap. Or now for us in a quali run, that would be basically, so you've got an out lap and then we've got 2 hot laps, so it'd be on that lap, that 3rd lap effectively. The soon as you start having quite imbalance in pressures, and what we're looking at specifically here, hopefully you can see the mouse, then we're looking at these last hop pressures. Now that, I will say, this is not 100% accurate. This won't give you an average over the lap. It really is kind of like the last hop pressure. Now with us coming around a fairly high speed left-hander, and most of obviously the corners are left-handers here as well. That's where most of the load is in the right tyre, so the right pressure's built up more than the left tyre. but it's still a pretty good guide, I have to say. If you want to get an absolute pinpoint reading, that's when you've got to head over to Motec. But like I said, that's a totally different video. This one is just about using the tools in here, but this is still pretty good. Now, what you can see here, I've got some questions coming in, I'll answer those in a second. What we've got, just in 3 laps, that's all we've done here. We've got 4 kPa, excuse me, obviously I run everything metric. If you're obviously in PSI, you'll have to just hit the button to see the difference. Well, we've dropped 4 kPa on the front left compared to front right, and that's just because that front right is on a little bit more load, and we're about 3 on the left. So I would say for qualifying, what we really are looking at is that we basically just want to up the 1 click. So we've gone up 3 kPa on the front, 3 on the rear left. Now that should give us an even pressure for the end of qualifying, that last lap. Now we want it to be the last lap because obviously that's when the fuel's burnt out the most, rather than at the start. Some will, some again will say, when it's a really hot session, you want to get that maybe on the second lap. So you can go and adjust that if it looks like it's going to be an absolute cooking qualifier. 50 sort of 50-degree track temp. The way the tyre model works right now is we get the best out of the tyre when it's cool. So it might be that you go, well, okay, I'll sacrifice the second lap, even though the engine will be slightly more warmed up, and you get a little bit more speed. You've obviously burnt a little bit more fuel out of it, so there's less weight. So the potential is to get a better lap time there if you can get the pressure evened out at that point. But if it's so hot that the grip's just gone on the tyre instantly, you can lose sort of half a second depending on how hot the tyre gets. So you might want to have a really slow out lap and then attack your first Q lap. Well, then you need to simulate that. So do some testing, certainly in sort of public sessions and in private sessions, just to get an idea of what you need to do. Try varying the track temperature in private testing, so you can say, right, okay, if I'm over 40 degrees track temp, ideally these are the pressures that I want. You should do that anyway as a matter of practice, so going into races exactly where your pressures need to start and finish. What's going to be optimal. But then you will also know, right, I'm going to do this on the first lap, or it's a cold session, I'll do this on the second lap, and you'll have your pressure configured for that. But anyway, so we've just put this up 1 click on the left. I'm going to run some laps. I've got a question though. Yeah, just coming in from Aaron, obviously, just assume you do this only if you were decent at a track already at Kota, for instance. I can't run 3 laps consistently, you have to get a baseline yet. Well, you don't need to worry about, you say 3 laps consistently, it's probably more a case of 3 laps where you're absolutely nailing all the marks. Now, I certainly didn't nail all the marks there. You're still going to get, as long as you're sort of doing it at full speed, maybe not like 100%, but like 98%, so you can still see what the tyres are going to do over those 3 laps. That'll be enough. You don't need to absolutely attack the crap out of every lap that you do it on. So just give yourself a good base. You'll get a good idea already. I mean, those 3 laps, heavy fuel, I wasn't really pushing hard or anything like that. Totally new field of view for me without the side screens and things like that, and it still gives us the difference in the reading there. So it's still a good judge. Just take it easy. You don't need to go crazy. So yeah, don't worry about it if you're struggling with a bit of consistency. Just get those 3 laps in, even if it's a bit slow. It's fine. Right, here we go again. Let's see if we can get a bit more consistency in the tyre pressures. Obviously, we're going to see a huge jump in time, mainly because of fuel. Really suck at that one. I have to say, iRacing did a pretty good job with the default sets. They do feel quite planted, from the word go, reasonable over the curbs. Like I say, tyre pressures are in a relatively good range. It's normally the one sort of go-to thing that will change, because they'll be miles out. Oh, I'm gonna have to reset my wheels. I keep missing shifts. going to peak out again because I haven't adjusted the gear, but like I say, I wouldn't care about that for this point. Come on, change up. There we go. Can you imagine how frustrating that is for me right now?
You have about 5 laps of fuel left.
Right, one more lap. Again. It's always at the same point. Come on! Nope. Oh, you got a chuckle. Yeah, stuck in 5th gear. That's exactly what happened to me in the World Championship race. It doesn't matter anyway. It's good enough the test jet can't shift down now either. Ugh. Oh. Why is it always 5th? Right, anyway, let me reset that while I'm doing that. Right, okay, so you can see this time we're actually a lot closer than what we were previously to getting them matched up. So 151, 152, 153, 153. So it's a little bit of difference front to back now as well. You know, 2 kPa here. It could almost be worth going up on the front. Like I say, I'm a firm believer that to get the best balance out of the car, you want the pressures even or as close to even front to back. Now, like I say, there's 2 kPa difference. You go up, it's 4. So we're kind of in a bit of a rock and a hard place with what we're going to do. You know, is it going to be better to go higher? Is it going to be better to stay lower? Now, I'm going to do a little run just on this as well, just to see how much closer we get, and it might be that actually we go up, we won't quite get the same sort of increase. So we do need to just do the testing, and as it might be that some of the high speed corners need a little bit more support off of the front tyre anyway. So this will help. I didn't have any issues in the slow speed stuff. So general rule of thumb is if you need support in the slow speed corners. So turning in Turning in and sort of through the middle of the corner, it's, you know, the front pressures need to be lower. On the exit, if you need more support, then it's rear tyre pressures need to be lower. On the high speed stuff, it's basically the opposite way around on entry and in the middle. If you need more support getting into the corner, or the car starting to scrub out wide, then just raise the pressures up a fraction on the front, or get this hot pressure up a little bit higher. And if it's a bit squirrely on the exit, then you go with higher rear pressures as well. So let's just run that as well. Hopefully we will get more than we'll get a proper lap in this time. Oh, hold on, one question come in before I come out. On some of the setups I've seen, the rear tyre pressures are one click lower than the front. This is for the benefit of traction rather than just balancing the tyre pressures out. It could be. I mean, you can use pressures as a tool to obviously balance the car. I'll be honest. I mean, for me, you should be looking at doing that in the suspension and in the dampers. Like I said, my personal opinion is you want those hot pressures even. I will always, that is my go-to set, and that is where I start all of my setups on, whether it's the McLaren, this, or the GT car. I will always try and get my pressures even, front to back, left to right, or as close as the sim will allow me. Obviously, we're doing chunks of 4 kPa here, or half a psi, I think it is, or something like maybe 1 psi. So it's kind of difficult to do that. But it might be that somebody has got just a hair too much oversteer in some corners, so they've gone one click higher on the front pressures, or they need a little bit more bite, so they've gone one click lower, and that's given the setting that they want. But for me personally, I would rather just go and change the front suspension, or put a little bit more aero on the front, or adjust the dampers to help that. ARB, springs, there's loads of other things you can do to do that. So I will always try and leave my pressures the same. So, right, let's just do that now. Just seen your question come in, Aaron. I'll answer that when I pull up. We're gonna get past 5th gear this time. Nope. Come on. There we go. Hey, we got 6. Still revving the nuts. Well, I can tell you actually instantly, because I've gone slightly higher on the pressures, I do have a bit more support coming off the corner with it being slightly higher. It's the difference I'm feeling right now. It's not really affecting the slow speed stuff, although that was rubbish.
about 5 laps of fuel.
There is an apex somewhere there. Okay. Right, let's have a quick look at that. Pretty hard to judge. Right, so okay, so completely changed the balance of it, and actually we are a little bit closer. Like I say, everything has an effect. Just not a straightforward 1 + 1 = 2. So we have indeed gone up 2 on the front in comparison to the rear where we were below before. So it's close. The rear's obviously still matching, and the front left now is a little bit higher, but only 1 kPa higher. So actually, I would suggest that that's probably about as close as what you're going to get for like a 3-lap run. Now it'd be interesting to see what happens over a longer run, which we'll do in a moment, just to see where we go, like 5 or 6 laps. So it gives us an idea of what's going to go on with sort of the race set. Now, what like I say, I did notice a little difference with the balance of the car. And when you're in this kind of position where you can't get them bang on, you've kind of got to go, what is the best for me? You know, you'll go down and you'll go up. You'll do some back-to-back testing. You'll feel, rears feel good. Fronts, like you know they're not quite exactly the same as the rears. So you'll go, right, which one's better? Slightly lower, slightly higher. And this is where you might get, again, the fronts are higher than the rears, and vice versa. I would pretty much every track, apart from like a figure of 8 or the track that has a lot of lefts and right-handers in it, I would expect to see difference left to right to get that hot pressure the same, just because you're either going clockwise or anti-clockwise. Even on Q sets, as you can see, only 3 laps there. So what I would do now, like I say, is I would normally go down again and just do another back-to-back test with them being below. Just confirm the settings. I'm getting exactly the same readings once again. If I am, then awesome. I know that I'm in a good position, and whether or not I've got the quickest one. Now, would I just go, oh right, that's it, I've balanced them out? Well, no, you wouldn't, because you also want to check your hot pressure is the best that it can possibly be. So now that we've got some sort of balance in the setup, what we would do now is we'd just do some testing. Unfortunately, it can take a little bit of time, but we'd put the pressures up a click all round, do some back-to-back testing on that again, and go, well, did I find any time? I have to say, the time is the easiest way. At the end of the day, we're after lap time. The car might still have issues with balance and feel and things like that. We can correct those later on in the setup. But if we're gaining lap time from the pressure, then we're getting it much more into the range it wants to be for that particular track, and that particular condition as well. Got to remember, as soon as the temperature drops, then I fully anticipate that pressures will need to come up all around, and the left to right balance might be affected as well. So you need to do some checks on that as well. So like I say, definitely worth doing. Maybe, some testing. If you do a lot of testing in default, we'll do some testing in hotter weather than default and some cooler weather than default as well, just to give an idea of what the pressures are going to do and if you need to change them. Ultimately, once you've been working on your set on, say, like default for a while, and you've got this lovely hot pressure that you're like, yes, right, 157 is my like target hot pressure. That's the one I want it to be at. Well, you know that what you need to do then is go and replicate that on the colder and the hotter tracks. It might be that you might have to raise pressures to get that. It might be that you have to lower them, but at least you have that target hot pressure to go for. Right, just having a quick look at some of the other questions. Do you have to rebalance as the set and your skill stroke speed track change? If I'm getting the question right, Aaron, do I have to? I think you always have to rebalance a set to a degree based on like the skill or the pace that you go. Those laps were a bit quicker. And you can see when I didn't miss a gear shift as well, it actually did have an effect on the hot pressure too. So the more you attack in certain areas of a track, for example, someone might be stronger in high speed corners, someone might be stronger in slow speed corners, and then you're leaning on the tyre a different amount, so that's going to affect your hot pressures in different ways. So yes, certainly if you kind of like my go-to settings when I get a setup off of anybody is I will have a tinker with pressures straight away just to make 100% sure that they're right for me. Just because somebody sets their pressures, that suits them. That's good. That supports them where they need to. It might be that it's supporting them in the slow speed sections and you need more support in the high speed. So yeah, you definitely need to go and do the tests that somebody else has done. Now, I would suggest like left to front and front to back pressures have already had some good play to get them sort of even. So you won't be doing massive changes there, maybe one click here on one side or one click on another side, but I don't think like all of a sudden just because you're a different driver you're going to be going up 2 clicks on the right hand front tire or something just to even it out. It might just be 1 click at most. When setting your pressures higher for qualifying, should you adjust ride heights to match your race setup height? Well, this all comes down to whether or not you have a race setup and a queue setup. If you only have a race setup that you've been testing with, and you have a balance on the ride heights before changing pressures, then I would strongly suggest yes, you change your ride heights back once you've done your pressure changes for queue. Exactly that. It just makes because all you're obviously doing by adjusting the ride heights. Adjusting the pressures and changing the ride heights. If you don't do that, you're going to affect your balance in and out of corners, which will either make it a bit more understeery or a bit more oversteery. And if you're used to the car driving in a particular way, it's you're just making qualifying harder for yourself. So definitely reset the ride heights after you've had a play with Q. I'm guessing as well. Really, we all do a bit of Q testing and we all do a bit of race testing. So you're going to have an idea anyway going into a race or going into a Q session. What sort of difference it makes. So I would make sure you save yourself a Q set and save yourself a race set and work on it differently, because as the fuel comes out of the car as well, then that's also going to affect how the car handles the balance front to back and things like that as well. So strongly suggest that you have independent Q and race setups, and it might be that your hot pressure can be quite a bit higher or might be quite a bit lower in Q, depending on what you need as well, because you haven't really got to worry about getting the life out of the tyre. So I've seen some GT setups that have been on Q, for example. They've got massive camber on the front and the back. Of course, it kills the tyres, and the balance isn't there for a long run. But sometimes they're getting a little bit more lap time out of it. It might be a tenth or so, but in quali a tenth is a tenth. So sometimes it's worth having. Right, another question from Aaron. Over time, you'd get faster, so you'd ask more of tyres. So they'll change temp more. Sorry for the unclear question. Yeah, okay, so yeah, you're right. As the car gets quicker because of the fuel comes out again and the ride heights change as you go from the run. You're exactly that right. And also, of course, remember you're going to be building pressure. You're going to be building temperature up in the tyre over a race run as well. So that will also have an effect on the hot pressure. So there there's a couple of things I do. So I'm going to switch basically to doing like a quick 5 lap run. Sorry, that might be a bit boring. Just watching me circulate around Phillip Island for 5 laps while you do it. But you'll see a difference in the balance of the pressures. Say like this left hand side might all of a sudden be higher than the right hand side on both front to back. We'll see. But again, over a 19 lap run or whatever it is at Phillip Island, obviously Cota's 15 laps, but just do your testing and see. There'll be different hot to pressures, and now 5 laps is a good idea to see what the difference is going to be, but to truly know what you need to do with the pressures to get that hot pressure right, you've got to do a race run. Personally, I'll do a race run before I do any race. I will make sure I do a full race distance. Or at least if it's a car that needs a pit stop, then I will do whatever my first stint's going to be. So, for a World Championship race, I always do a full distance with a pit stop, so I can see for both stints, so I know exactly what the pressures need to be for both stints, because there'll be different lengths. Again, so I will change it as I need to. But yeah, if it's just a straightforward, just sort of sprint race, make sure you put the time in to do a full race distance and check to see what your hot pressures are doing. Again, my go-to tool is Motec to do that. There's a setting inside that that again I'll cover in the advanced sessions that is about evolving tyre pressures. And if any Academy 2.0 people are watching this now, you've only got to pop your head into the McLaren section, and there's so many people now in there posting their revolving tyre pressures, because it's something we covered in last season's Academy classes for the McLaren. So everybody's saying, this is my target hot pressure, here's my evolving pressures, this is where they're sort of getting, everybody's giving each other a little bit of feedback. So those that don't quite have the time to do the full runs, there's a lot of advice in there to do that, and hopefully it'll be much the same with the Academy as well. It'd be great to see people do that sort of stuff in the iRacing forum, but there's a competitive edge always, so some people keep that sort of information in back, and rightly so, I suppose. We're all here to race rather than all here to try and help other people be us. So right, let me do this 5 lap run then. Post your questions, and I'll ask them, and we'll see what the difference is. So obviously I won't change anything on the set right now. Obviously we've got 155, 156, 154s on the back, so that's kind of like, we want to see the difference in that. Do we get an increase in pressure over a race run? Sorry, I don't know if I covered this actually. Like I said, this wouldn't be where I would stop for doing tests for pressures. Like I say, I would now go and try 1 click up all round. Is it quicker? 2 clicks up, another click, until I start to get slower, and then I find the ideal pressure. If I get slower straight away, then obviously I know that I need to go down, but you need to check at least 2 settings up one way and 2 settings up the other way, just to make sure you weren't obviously in the ideal spot, or it was only 1 click off or something like that. So and again, if you are struggling in slow speed sections, then down is your go-to setting. If you're struggling high speed, up is going to be your go-to setting. Right, let's do the 5 laps. worth saying as well, had this been sort of me properly testing race set, then I would have actually put like the race fuel in by now as well. There's no point in testing it on light fuel because it will affect the car 'cause it's under different loads, but the principles are still going to be the same. You should still see the difference. Gears. That's not going to help. In turn as well, of course, you know, going off, that's not too bad, but if you have a massive slide or huge lockup or something like that, you ought to perhaps consider resetting and going again if you have a massive spin. So yeah, just keep the laps consistent rather than absolutely balls out. Again, of course, it does have a little difference to it, but yeah, we're just trying to get everything sorted out to start off with. Remember, this is first step of the setup building as well, so much more to do, so extra balance and speed comes later.
You've got about 5 laps of fuel left.
lap, I think, and that should be it. Not like massively impressive times, but like I say, we are getting a bit quicker, and this is just very early days. You should of course at least start to feel some sort of improvement in the car, see some sort of times start to come down as well. It's your guide really for you to know if you're going in the right direction. Change up again. You can probably hear me flapping at the paddles. Right, okay. Okay, so another question. I was under the impression that 160 kPa was optimal pressure for the tyre to be at for this tyre under race conditions. If this is correct, if you run too much pressure, does that increase tyre wear? It can do. Obviously, what's going to happen if you... I won't say iRacing's 100% right on this as well. Of course, if you have too much pressure in the tyre, what you're going to do is you're going to inflate it in the middle a bit more than you are the outside, and of course you're going to wear out the middle of the tyre a little bit quicker. But we can control most of that with the cambers that we run, so it's not too much of an issue. And I have to say, for quite some time now, that the pressure is not really making a difference to the tyre wear. I have run minimum to maximum in some cars and done some tests, and I have not seen a difference in the middle wear rate, when you should definitely. So if minimum pressure should be wearing the outside edges massively compared to a maximum pressure should be running the middle. The middle pressure, the middle wear, sorry, should be much higher. And I really haven't seen that for quite some time. I think that was, I think we lost that about NTM V4, V5, something like that. I think it was 4. The old 3 had it. I'm not even sure it was that. It might have been older than that. It might have been like 2 or something. But yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. If for whatever you need in regards to hot pressure, you know, if you need the support of 160 or 162 or something like that, you find you're quicker, then run that, you know, at the end of the day. Yeah, just because someone says, oh, you know, this is what the optimal pressure, and certainly don't necessarily listen to what some of the developers say the optimal pressure should be as well, because I've certainly seen some optimal settings being absolutely trounced. One particular example was, I think, when they released the Dallara DW12, they were like, this is as close to the perfect IndyCar setup you can get that we've put on there. It was very, very good, and it did take a lot of beating, but there was people going 0.3 of a second a lap faster at Indy with some crazy setups that just didn't make any sense whatsoever. Yeah, so yeah, don't necessarily listen to what they say as well. Some cars have set up guys with optimal ranges and things like that. I think the McLaren has that. But yeah, don't necessarily take that as gospel. Do the work, do some testing. You know, think outside the box. Sometimes that's where some of this extra speed is that people have got. Some cars have it, some don't. This one seems pretty good. I haven't seen anything crazy yet, but of course this is still my first season in it, so I might stumble across something that works like an absolute gem later on. Right, so we did 5 lap run then. What do we got? Obviously, it's increased the pressures. Now, what's interesting, the right pressures actually come away from the left, and yeah, still two split on from the left front to the left right. So yeah, it's still pretty good. We've got that's pretty close. Now, with this left one getting a little bit, well, not lower, but not coming up as much, I definitely feel like we would have to run a good distance here to see what you're going to get. Because I'd be concerned that these gaps would just get further away. Right now, that's about as close as we've seen, but we have got 3 split from left rear to right front. You know, I mean, you could just go down and get that probably the same. So 155 all around, which I would say, well, that would be way better than having that at 158 kind of thing. So do a longer run and see what that would be. Ideally, I would want to see this left rear come up. It's not going to come up either because it's not under load and much. So I would suggest after say 10 laps, actually this is probably going to be, these are going to be even worse. These are going to be even further away from this left rear, so we might end up actually coming up on that tyre to get this into the this around 158. Because this front tyre is going to carry on building up in pressure as well. So, like I say, either you're going to go down on that, and that's going to stay within 1 kPa of the rear right. If it does over a long run, then great. If it doesn't, then bring that up. If it does, then you could possibly drop this down as well, because this tyre is going to be under a fair bit of load as it builds up as well. So it might be the 1 click down. So you can see what we're basically trying to do here is that we're trying to get the range between all of the tyres as close as we can possibly get, and there's a fair amount of testing that needs to be done to do that. You know, there's a lot of hours can be spent just sort of playing around with tyres, and we haven't even gotten to cambers or anything like that yet. So I hope that sort of makes a little bit of sense. I don't really feel like I've got too much more now to add with where we go on pressures. You can really see what I'm trying to do after this little video. You know, right now, if that was, if I just cancel that so I can go back to what it was, if this is what I had, this was the end of my race run, yeah, I would go, definitely want to take the front right down 3 kPa, because that would be, there's a 1 kPa difference between all the tyres then, which would be like my optimal sweet spot. That would be where I would go if that was the end of the stint. So as many laps as you need to do, don't just settle on 10. You know, do a full run. It's good practice to do a full race run. You will learn much more about a car and a track by doing longer runs to start off with in the week than you will just constantly going in and try and beat the hot lappers out there. You know, at the end of the day, if all they're doing is hot lap, hot lap, hot lap, hot lap, hot lap, when it comes to the race, you're going to have much, much more experience, and you're going to be much, much more consistent as well. Plus, your setup's going to be more consistent over the long run as well. So they might scamper away for the first couple of laps, but you're just going to reel them back in and overtake them over the long run. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you a good idea. Obviously, if you want to use Motec to get it even more accurate, then do so. Peter Chamberlain, I linked his workbook in my training videos that I put up on the forum at the start of the season. They're down for the moment because I'm going to replace them for next season. But yeah, head on over to the iRacing forum, into the telemetry section, find Peter Chamberlain, grab his workbook from there. All the links to get Motec are on there, and you can use that evolving tyre pressure tab in there. There's guides to do that, or you can come and sign up to the advanced setup courses within the Apex Academy, and of course I will, once I've done this basic walkthrough with all the different settings, we're going to go into an advanced one as well, and yeah, you'll get some Motec tutorials, and you'll get obviously some advanced tutorials on how to set this car up, and for about pressures and cambers, and well, every setting really. But alright guys, no more questions that have come in, so I hope that covers everything we need to on pressures, and it all makes sense. Of course, if you have got questions, well, just whack them in the chat. Post on the comments. If you, or on obviously the Apex forum, post in the forum thread that this will be on, or if you're on the iRacing forum, well, just there's an Apex Racing Academy Season 3 thread in the Formula Renault where all these videos are going to start to go. So just post in there, ask any questions. I will try and get back to you. If it's not me, then usually like Cam or Peter or someone else will be around, and I'm sure even actually the guys that are currently in the Academy 2.0 right now wouldn't mind just chipping in and answering some questions as well, where they've already sort of asked and they've got confirmation of that. So, all right, guys. Yep. Thanks very much for tuning in and watching this back on YouTube. Hopefully, I'm going to get iRacing to try and feature this on there and do a playlist on their own channel as well. So get a bit more exposure that way. But yep. Thank you all for the questions, and yeah, I'll hopefully do this next week, same time ish, depending if I've got a wheel and things like that, because I've got to send this away to get fixed. But we'll be looking at Cambers next week, so yes, stay tuned for that one. But thank you very much, guys.